Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be organizing Dune-Imperium, designed by Paul Dennen and published by Direwolf and Legendary. This is a fully sleeved copy of Dune-Imperium with no lid lift that's organized to get gameplay started as soon as possible. It includes all of the current expansions and promos up to the Immortality Expansion. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow, and for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. If you have any questions about what you see here, please let me know down in the comments below, as well as if you're looking for anything we talk about in this video, please take a look in the description. Let's get started organizing Dune-Imperium. First off, we'll lift off the lid here, and inside you'll see that we have all of our large rulebooks on top. Let's move our main game rulebook to the side, our board space guide, and our solo and two-player rules, and then our large Rise of Ix rulebook as well. Underneath the large rulebooks, you'll have your main game board, and then you'll have your small Immortality rulebook. You'll then have your extra Immortality board, followed by your Rise of Ix boards. This small one here, and then you'll have a large board here that's actually going to fold open and go on top of your main board to cover some of the spaces. We'll put those to the side for now. We'll remove the plastic covering from this miniatures tray here, and you'll see that we have all of the different player components in these 4 bins. Each of them are going to have a variety of resources, and they will be identical for all 4. Each player will have a variety of components in their color, starting off with your control markers, your soldier miniatures, your round markers, these are going to be used for a variety of things, your dreadnought tokens, and then you'll need 4 of these influence cubes. Now these were replaced by all of these soldiers miniatures, but you are going to keep 4 to track on the different influence tracks. And then lastly, from the Immortality expansion, each player is going to get one of these refresh tokens. As mentioned before, these 4 slots are identical, so we'll return those pieces into their appropriate area, and then you'll also notice that we have the different rings on these bases here to show the color as well for the different agent miniatures that have replaced the wooden ones. You'll have your first player marker, as well as the 4 alliance markers that replace the cardboard tokens in the bottom right here, and then lastly you'll have your new miniature for the Mentat. So it's going to be all of your miniatures and player components in this tray. Let's go ahead and move it to the side. Underneath that tray, you're going to have 2 distinct sections. Starting off with this left section here, we'll pull off this plastic cover, and you'll see that we have another small cardboard piece that's going to actually go on your main board to replace one of the action spaces there. So put that over the research station if you're playing with Immortality. In this upper left area, you're going to have all of your Intrigue cards for the game, get some special abilities out of nowhere, and then you'll have the rest of the Intrigue cards in this other section, followed by your combat cards. So you're going to shuffle up those conflict cards and put an appropriate amount of the 1s, 2s, and 3s on their spots on the board. So go ahead and shuffle those up and prepare them. Now's a good time to talk about the sleeves that I recommend for the game. Starting off with the mini European small card sleeves for the Intrigue and conflict cards. These have a non-glare matte finish on them. They shuffle really well. They're my favorite sleeves for those small cards. In the middle left section, you'll have all of your Imperium Row Cards, designated by this cost in this upper right corner. You're going to be using this buy power to purchase them, which you'll see is a little bit different from some of the cards you might acquire in the Immortality expansion. Go ahead and shuffle those up to make that Imperium Row. Moving on to more of the standard size cards, you're actually going to have the rest of your Imperium Row cards here with that cost in the corner, add them to the others, and then shuffle them up. We've separated them so it's a bit easier to take them out of these 2 wells here. Move those to the side for now. With your white borders here, turned upside down, so you can easily identify them, you're going to have all of your always available cards. Your fold space cards, which are going to be tied to that Spacing Guild space. You'll have your Arrakis liaisons, and then lastly, the Spice Must Flow. Put them next to the Imperium Row. And lastly, you're going to have all of your cards from the Immortality expansion. The Reclaim Forces is going to be always purchasable, so put that near that Immortality board, and then you'll have all of these cards that have a specific cost that is green cubes. That's how you know that they're different from the Imperium Row. You shuffle this deck of cards up and then reveal 2 of them, so that way you have an option available whenever you're going to be spending those green cards to add new ones to your deck. As I'm sure you've noticed, we've actually removed this piece from our insert. This was one of the containers that was originally planned to store some of the player components. Now, unfortunately, the player cards in this bottom right section, if they were sleeved, would get damaged if you stored them in here, so definitely not a good option for us since all our things are sleeved, as well as you didn't really actually need any of the components here because they were just your cubes and your redundant components, so there was really no reason to keep this in our organization system. Speaking of starting cards, in this upper right section, you're going to have all of your starting cards for the different players. Indicated by this arrow in the upper left corner, these are going to be all of the cards required for each player. Now, with the new Immortality Expansion, if you are playing with that, you'll need to replace your Dune, the Desert Planets, with these experimentation cards. And make sure that you do that. We'll show you where we store them later. But these are going to be for all of your different players here. On the other side here, flipped around, is going to be those cards that have been replaced. Those Dune, the Desert Planets, as well as if you are playing with that Epic mode from Rise of Ix, you're going to have the Control the Spice cards here. So these are all potential options for your starting cards. After your starting cards, and serving as sort of a divider, you're going to have an extra pack of sleeves. These are the Direwolf branded sleeves, so the spice must flow. I like the artwork on the back of these, but sometimes they will get damaged, so it's nice to have some extra sleeves just in case with all of that shuffling going on. After our extra set of sleeves, we're going to have our 2-player and solo mode cards. These are the House Hagal cards, indicated by this blue background here. You'll put all of these in one area, and you can even flip them so you can clearly tell which ones are for 1-player, 2-player, so on and so forth. Now for these, you're going to need different sleeves than the others. You're going to use clear sleeves for these, and I'll talk about those in 1 second. My recommendation for standard size clear card sleeves are the Ultra Pro Matte Deck Protector sleeves. They're my go-to brand of standard clear sleeves, as you can still retain the artwork on the cards, but they still shuffle well and have that nice matte finish on the front. Can't recommend these enough. For links to anything that I talk about in this video, once again, take a look in the description of the video. Our last item in this top section here is another set of sleeves, just in case things do get damaged. And on the back here, we've actually stored some of those mini sleeves from the Gamegenic Mini Europeans. That way, just in case something does break while you're playing, you have something that you can immediately fix it with. In this middle section here, we'll remove that plastic cover, and then we have all of our leader cards. So these are going to give you special abilities during the game, as well as give you the ability of your signet ring. And on the back, there's also references for the gameplay. So all of your leader cards are going to be in this container here, and they do fit sleeved. Speaking of sleeves, for the leader cards, I recommend the Sleeve Kings extra large, super large card sleeves. They are sized 101.5 by 153 millimeters. You are going to have to trim them down a little bit to fit those leader cards, but they do work well and they fit into that insert as well. We'll move that leader tray to the side, and underneath you'll see that we have all of our resources for the game. Your Solari, your water, as well as your spice, and then in this upper right section of the resource tray, you'll have all of your technology tiles from the Ix expansion. Go ahead and shuffle them up and then put them onto their appropriate spot on the board, but in the interim, you can store them in this upper right section here. Let's move that resource bin to the right. Our last section in the bottom here is going to have your character-specific components, starting off with the tokens required for Baron Harkonnen, just in a simple plastic bag, and then your snooper tokens for the character that uses them. You'll also have all of your redundant components in here in case you do ever need them or want them. Maybe the cubes are going to become important in a future expansion. It's nice to have them on hand just in case, and they do fit into that bottom section here. Lastly, we have some optional components, starting off with some foam cubes here. This is just to prevent things from shifting around too much, but because of the redundant components, the cards, and the organizers, things tend to stay where they belong. But just in case, we do have these foam cubes if you are worried about things shifting around or if you're storing your games vertically. We've got some silica gel packets in here for freshness, and then we have a set of D6. These are actually for variants for the game, where you're going to use them to refresh the market a little bit more quickly, but with the Immortality Expansion, you now have a token that lets you refresh the market. So I'm not sure how often these will be used, but they're in there just in case you decide to play with that variant. And that's everything inside of the box. Let's go ahead and pack it up. First off, let's start with our resource container in the middle of this right section, followed by all of your leader cards in their container on top. In this upper section here, we'll put one of our sets of extra sleeves, as well as all of your House Hagal cards. To the right of those, we'll put the rest of your extra sleeves, followed by all your starting cards, once again indicated with that arrow next to the name in the upper left here. So put those sleeves there, and then all of your starting cards after that. In this bottom right section, we'll put all of our silica gel packets in here for freshness, followed by our foam cubes, just to make sure that nothing is shifting around if you're storing that game vertically. We'll then put in all of our redundant components in this bottom right section, followed by your various tokens for the different characters, and that extra set of dice if you're playing with that variant. We'll put that all into that bottom right section. Moving to the left section here, in this bottom left section, you're going to be putting the rest of your Imperium Row cards, all of your starting cards here with that white background, and then lastly, all of your new Immortality cards. So those will go into that bottom left section. We'll put the rest of the Imperium Row cards in that middle left section, followed by your Intrigue and Conflict cards in the upper left section. We'll place the Immortality replacement tile and then our plastic covering on top like so. We'll return the miniatures tray on top of that main section, followed by your plastic cover like so. Next up are our expansion boards from the Rise of Ix, our expansion board for Immortality, as well as the Immortality rulebook, and lastly, our main game board, followed by all of your large square rulebooks. And that is organizing Dune-Imperium with all expansion content up to Immortality. If you have any questions about what you see here, please let me know down in the comments below. How do you organize your copy of Dune-Imperium? What do you think of the new expansion Immortality? What do you think of the graft mechanism? Or all of the new cards that have been added to the Imperium deck? I'd love to hear what you think and what your new favorite combos are. Thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.